Christmas Island was discovered in 1643 by British sea captain William Myners. Now, it was on the 25th of December, so it's not hard to work out how he named the island. He did some very important things whilst he was here. He charted the island, so we knew where it was placed, but he also did something very important. He noted there were no people on the island and he took rock samples. And the combination of those two things led this to really change its future nearly 100 years later. Now, when you come to Christmas Island, there's two things you've got to do. You've got to check out the visitor centre straight away, and then you head up here. This is Tajin House. This is Government House. It's got an amazing history. But on the top floor, it's got a museum, and it tells you the full history and background of the island, and it's fascinating. And after a wander through the museum and right next to Tajin House, there's some incredible war history you just have to check out. An incredible part of Christmas Island's history occurred in March 1942. The Japanese were at war with Australia and they decided that they would take Christmas Island with overwhelming force. Now, there was a small Australian contingent on the island. 5 incredibly brave Royal Artillerymen decided they would not let that happen and that they would fight it out to the end. And they paid for it with their life. When the Japanese reached the shore, there were over 1,000 Christmas Islanders, Malays and Chinese, that fled off into the jungle, but they were eventually caught. This artillery gun still stands as a memory to those years, but check these out, still in original condition. A reminder of the history of the island is just between the cannon, the protection gun that was on the corner of the cove, and Tajin House, just over here. These were the Japanese officers' quarters, and Tajin House was being used as a military governance outpost. This is a real, I suppose, poignant reminder of a very difficult time in our history, the only time that an Australian territory was occupied by a foreign force. Nestled on the coastline down near the settlement is another reminder of that war history. A short stroll off the road has us find an old cave, literally carved into the rock, that played a very big role for the soldiers that were here. Now, this is another example of, well, the remarkable history. You know, World War II saw this island obviously occupied. The Japanese had all these different things that were going on in and around the island. This cave here was carved in, well, right next to the settlement. You wouldn't even know it's here. You have to get some local advisors to find it. But what makes this so special is this is where the Japanese stored all the munitions, all the ammunition they were going to use to protect themselves when the island was going to be taken over again. It sat here for years and years, and now it's slowly being taken over by the jungle. But it's another one of those things that if you look hard enough, you'll find it. Now, that piece of Japanese wartime history isn't the only significant wartime history here on Christmas Island. There was something else very significant that occurred in February 1942. A small boat washed up just off the shores here, was brought in. It had a body on board. Now, that body was believed to be from a sailor from a significant tragedy that occurred off the West Australian coast when the HMAS Sydney was sunk by the German raider Cormoran. There were 645 lives lost in that tragedy, the biggest one ever to occur in Australia. This sailor, they believed, was actually from that he'd climbed aboard a boat and it had drifted for 3 months and eventually found its way to Christmas Island. He was buried here in the cemetery, and today you'll find a plaque that commemorates that significant event. And that's just a taste of the fascinating history of Christmas Island. To be quite honest, I've breezed over the finer details, but you don't have to. There's so much to see and learn here. Another reason to explore this fascinating part of Australian history.